What's up, RU Tribe? It's Matt Johnson. We're back with another episode of Real Estate Uncensored. This is the place where you get actionable ideas, insight, and inspiration to turn your real estate career into a life of freedom. We have a killer guest with us today, Ross Brand, and we're talking all about live video. We're also going to talk a little bit about Alexa flash briefings, which some of you might already be experimenting with listening to. We're going to talk about it from the perspective of generating content. We're also going to talk about 3 paths to monetizing live video and live streaming. And we've got the man here himself, the live stream expert, with us. So it's a very meta episode. We are live broadcasting and live streaming about live streaming about live streaming about live video, something like that. Anyway, so I have my my live streaming cohort, the junior grandmasters in the co-pilot seat, where you so belong.
I do.
Soon, Greg, you will be broken out of your box, and I'll sadly have to sit next to you on an actual airplane in real life. And I'm not looking forward to it.
You're gonna be fine. I'll just squish you into the window aisle and that right there. You'll be perfect.
And just stuff me into the overhead compartment.
Yeah, I got a carry-on. His name's Matt Johnson. I'll just put him above you, ma'am. I'm looking forward to this. Ross and I we're talking with Gene. We're all chatting about live stream, and the Alexa flash briefing is something I actually have on my Alexa, which is now in my storage facility. And I have the Google here, but I did every morning love to listen to them, and now it's interesting to see how you can monetize this and how you can really become a fixture in people's homes, even if you don't have a podcast. How you can produce content, whatever it might be, and it can be something very valuable to stay top of mind. It's kind of like the ultimate postcard drop that you can show up every morning in someone's flash briefing if they like you.
That's
but
right.
We'll get
to that in a second.
TBD.
Yeah, exactly.
On that one.
Well, first of all, we've also got Gene Volpe here with us, so we'll bring him in a second. But first, let's bring Ross in. Ross, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Well,
dude, our pleasure.
We're really pumped to have you here. Yeah, give us just the audience, because they obviously may not be familiar with you because you're a little bit outside the real estate space. You're in the live streaming space. So give us an idea of kind of how did you get into this? What's your background like?
Yeah, so live streaming about live streaming is pretty much what I do. So I worked in radio for 12 years on air, and then left radio and actually went into HR for a while. And somewhere along the line in 2015, late 2015, I think, I discovered a site that no longer exists called Blab.
Yes.
I didn't really know what I was doing when I dropped in there, but when I entered into somebody's Blab, I woke up and was like, wow, this is pretty cool. This is like talk radio heaven, except with webcams. So I kind of fell in love with broadcasting again through watching some Blabs, and then eventually started hosting a show. And so since then, I've been live streaming, podcasting, now doing Alexa flash briefings as well, and helping others get started and monetize their live streams, use it for their businesses, help them build their personal brand with live streaming, and just enjoy going live fairly regularly. I do a monthly show called Live Stream Deals, where we have 4 guests on representing 4 different products, and it's a chance for them to kind of pitch their product, present a special offer perhaps, or a deal for the audience, and then I make each episode into a podcast. For a while, for about 2 years, I hosted a show called Live Stream Stars, where I pretty much interviewed many people as I could find who were doing live streaming for their business, and talked to them about how they're using live streaming and how it's helped them, how it's been effective. So all that was just kind of an amazing learning experience, learning about all the different people and what they're doing and all the different products and how they kind of fit into what people might want to do with live streaming, live video, or live audio.
Hey, Ross, did you ever interview anyone in the real estate space for live streaming by chance?
Trying to think.
Well, today's your day, buddy.
All right.
Here we are.
All right, you guys might be the first, and we'd love to have you guys on a show at some point, too.
That'd be fun. That'd be really, really fun.
Yeah.
So what a lot of real estate agents do is that they're very stale. They're very stagnant. They're very stiff. There's a camera in front of me. Oh my God, what do I do? It's like they just got told they got terminal cancer when the camera turns on. They're like, ugh. So, what can we do as humans to not be deathly afraid of the camera? I mean, it's just a tiny little itsy-bitsy, teensy-weensy little thing that we look into, but it just strikes fear into most people's hearts. Obviously not the Johnson face or the Volpinator or me or you, but, I mean, what can people do to get over that fear so they can get out there and start using this fantastically free tool to build their brand, their exposure, build their business? I mean, give me a tip, God of all podcasts and live streaming.
Well, one thing is you don't actually have to be the focus of what's on video. So if you want to, for instance, live stream a property that you want to show people, you don't actually have to have the camera pointing at you to give a tour of the property. Or you can say, okay, I'm going to have it pointing to me for a minute. I'm going to introduce myself. But just know that, in 30 seconds to a minute after you let people see your face and know who you are, who you work for, where you're from, and that kind of thing, you can then turn the camera around and it'll pick up your audio, and, you can walk around with your phone and live stream for as long as you want and not really have to be on camera. And so that's one way to get into it. I worked in radio for 12 years because I didn't want to be on camera. It wasn't comfortable. And in fact, when I started live streaming, I think I'd only used the webcam in my computer like once or twice. So, it takes a little time, but I think if you focus on the content and you focus on the value you want to bring to people and you get into kind of a conversational mode, because live streaming is pretty interactive, and you're gonna have comments coming up, and you think about talking to people and things like that, and you become a little less self-conscious. I mean, to this day, I'm still not great at like making sure that I'm looking at the camera and things like that. But I don't think having a perfect on-camera presence is the most important thing. Because after all, this is a talk show. So the visual, I mean, while we all look fantastic and all that, basically, if the video went out, people could still get the benefit of what we're talking about. If the audio went out after a second or two, it's sort of like, well, okay, that was, what are we here for, right? So, the audio is the most important thing, and the video is often secondary.
Interesting. So content then is basically you come up with some sort of content. Make sure you have a halfway decent microphone. Gene and I all use the ATR 2100, I believe.
Right.
$70, $80. It's done for you by dummies microphone. I mean, you plug and play. You can't, if you screw it up, get out of podcasting.
I mean, it pretty much transfers your audio into your computer, so you don't need an interface. You don't need a mixer. I use the Samson Q2U for a couple of years, which is pretty much the same mic. It's sounds slightly different, but it's the same type of thing. It's a USB mic, and unlike, I would say, like some of the other mics that are targeted at live streamers and podcasters, but really aren't the right mic for doing this kind of stuff because they pick up too much background noise. The ATR 2100, the Samson Q2U, if you're just getting started, you need to actually be fairly close to the mic because it will reject sound that's not in front of the mic, and that's what you want.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of mics, like this is more, this I upgraded to is, now a professional broadcast mic, but it works by the same concept. If I move the mic over here, you're not hearing me very well. So that's what they use in radio because you're going to be typing on your keyboard. You're going to be you might be shuffling papers. People can be coming in and out of the studio. You may have guests sitting around in the table. You don't want a mic that you can sit too far from because if it can pick up you from a distance, then it's picking up everybody else. So if you're broadcasting from sort of a desktop kind of environment like this, getting a mic that like the one that Greg recommended, that's the great way to go to improve your audio. At the least, use like earbuds, like your iPhone earbuds. Use something like that. Is always preferable to talking into the built-in mic in your computer or talking into your webcam. And plus, if you have a guest on or whatever, then you don't get any feedback coming back through the mic. So those are a couple tips I'd say for the audio. If you do that, you're pretty good, right? And I love the fact you guys are all using the boom arm, so you get the mic off the desk, so you're not sitting hunched over, uncomfortable, and it's not shaking when you type on your keyboard, and you can position it to where it works for you. And for like a mic like the the ATR 2100. You could get a very inexpensive boom arm because it's light. So you could get a boom arm for like $13, $14 and you're good to go. As you add more things or a heavier mic or whatever, then you're going to need a little bit sturdier one. But to get started, you can get started pretty inexpensively.
You can get started for $100, $150. That's lights, mics, boom arm, everything. The little fluffy thing on the end of the mic here to stop your pops when you're talking.
$2, $3 for one of those.
$1, yeah, it's nothing.
With the Samsung Q2U, I think they come included now. So, yeah, that's all you need. That's pretty much all you need. I use the built-in webcam in my MacBook Pro for about a year or so, and definitely it's a huge upgrade to get like an external webcam. You can get like a Logitech C920 for about $50.
Yeah,
works great. Big improvement. Some people use DSLRs or camcorders. That takes a little more tech know-how and some more steps, but obviously that's a whole nother level up from the external webcam. But for what we're doing, an external webcam generally works great.
I've been shooting with a C whatever 920 or whatever forever and a day. Of like 4 or 5 years. The thing's still cranking, still doing fantastic. Gene, when it comes to marketing and doing your side of the whole thing, Ross and his side, they produce the content. Now, what would you do with that content?
Oh, what we would do? We would chop it up in a little bit itty bitty pieces and put it on every single site we could load out there. Any of the hosting sites he was talking about, the audio hosting sites, iTunes, and we're just talking audio, right? If you add video to that, it just gives us more material to promote.
So, okay, so let's say Ross talks somebody into, actually going on camera for the first time, and they're like, oh my God, I'm scared to death. They go on camera and they shoot 20 minutes of content. How long could you use that content to help build a real estate agent's business? A month, a year, two?
It depends. It certainly depends on what they're saying in that 20 minutes. If it's 20 minutes of dead air and there's no good information, you can only use it once, and people are probably never going to come back to it. But if you're dropping, let's see, Matt's laughing already because I could go down a road. But if you give me a bunch of good stuff, like for example, this show, Greg,
yeah,
I know for a fact I could pull out 30 to 40 little nuggets from you and use them for the next X amount of time. And don't be afraid to reuse it, too, because some things are timeless. Like when you talk about certain things. I don't know if
Greg has said that much good stuff. Maybe.
I was just trying to give him a little.
I knew.
I was giving him a gift.
Giving him the benefit of the doubt.
You're giving me a reach around? Thanks. So that's so nice.
We got 20 minutes more of show for Greg to say things that make me pinch my nose.
Oh, Ross, you don't know it, but it is my goal in every one of our shows to Matt at least to shake his head in disgust or pinch his nose in complete bewilderment of like, I can't believe that just came out of his face. Oh my God. Why am I associated with him in public?
And he accomplishes it, sadly. Okay, yeah. So you can do a lot of things. You can chop it up in a lot of different ways. I want to talk about one of the ways you can chop it up, which is the Alexa flash briefings, which we alluded to. Greg, you for some reason ditched your Alexa and switched over to the Google Assistant for whatever reason. But anyway,
I got my Google here.
Wait, can we skip that for 1 second? Because I just have a really quick question. But I want to tail end on not what we're leading into.
Okay.
Are you okay with that? I'm sorry. I don't mean to throw you all off, but I'm real curious to hear what Ross says about this. Because, first of all, if you need content, I would highly suggest you go, and Matt, you could probably give the website, but you could go to Ross's website, which I'm on right now, Livestream Universe, and just the blog posts. I could do videos for my clients just off these blog posts for days and days. The content's awesome. So get to that website. Now, Ross, here, say it again. I'm sorry.
I said thank you.
Oh, yeah, I love it. So here's my question to you, because this to me, I promote a lot of video and live streaming and stuff when I talk to my clients, and I'm always trying to get them into something that's nice and cheap, and that's, like you said, easy to use. Because the more advanced these things are, and the more thinking that has to go into it and learning, the more people walk away from it without doing anything.
Right.
So,
right.
what's your experience with, and what are your thoughts on the Mevo?
I haven't used it. I mean, I think that's something more geared towards events, right?
Well, no. So what I'm seeing it being used for now is exactly what we're doing. So, like, if you and I were doing a show and sitting in an office, it would sit in front of us and it would live stream to that podcast or interview right to Facebook. If you wanted to take it another step, you can have a live in-stream editor behind the Mac, kind of focusing it on your face, focusing it on mine, going to if we're holding stuff, go. So it's like an in-stream live editor that goes with it, but you don't need to use that. It's just a high-resolution camera that streams directly to where you want.
So you're not using a computer. It's like an encoder itself, and it's doing what your software would be doing, which is, in this case we're using Blue Jeans, or people use Be Live or Wirecast, whatever. So the Mevo's actually doing that encoding to send your stream to Facebook, and you can bypass the computer, I guess. I mean, I've used the Boxcaster, which sort of does something similar, but it's not a camera. You hook a camcorder up to it or a DSLR, and I've used the LiveView Solo, and those are really practical in certain situations. When I'm at my computer, I like to have the control to switch shots or to, but it is an easy way to go live, and often it's higher quality because those streams go to a third party, service that then send them to Facebook, and it's often very high quality through a hardware encoder. It doesn't suffer some of the things that the computer streams do. So it is an interesting way to go. I'm a little intimidated just to think, because I don't know that much about it. But like I say, I have used some devices like that, and they have their purpose. I mean, LiveView Solo I love because it's at a higher price point, but I love it because you can take it to an event, and where there's bad cell connection, it actually bonds multiple cell connections, so you can go live from the outskirts. You can go live pretty much from anywhere, and it'll find a connection, and you can stream in high quality. So that's kind of the advantage of using it. In terms of from your computer or whatever, I think to start getting the C920 or just using your built-in to get going is probably easier for most people, because they just go to Facebook or to a third party and pick their camera, pick their microphone, and away they go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, makes sense. I like it. Yeah, the Mevo is interesting. I know at one point, I think we actually, Greg, you slapped the money down to pre-order one or something, and then they canceled your pre-order without notifying you and never shipped you one or something like that. So there was some mix-up. Yeah, we were going to test it out and experiment with it. I think my mentor and good friend over at Viral Marketing is tinkering around with them, but then they went full on into live stream and did the whole, now they have some, badass $15,000 system where they can show up at an event and live stream it that way. And I think maybe they use a couple of Mevos in there, like for audience shots and things like that.
That's cool.
So I think you can incorporate a Mevo into like a bigger, more professional setup, which is interesting. So I think there's all kinds of really cool applications of stuff that's coming in. And I think the Mevo is kind of an indication of what's coming down the pipeline. Ross, so there's like, they'll come out with something that takes a little bit of tech savvy.
Right.
And then it takes a couple of years, and then they'll put it into a nice little box that's easy for someone to play. And thank God, because the rest of us that don't want to get into coding, developing, I want something that I can plug in that just works. But it takes a while for things to get there.
Eventually, you'll be able to just say like Facebook or whatever, and it'll know what your page is and where to send it and all that kind of stuff.
Let's hope not.
The comments will come up on your wall or whatever. You don't even need a computer or phone to look at them. All that stuff.
That is interesting. That'd be fun. All right, well, let's talk about the Alexa briefings real quick, and then we got to let Gene go because I want to make sure that that we get a plug for him too. But what are you seeing? Because you're tinkering around with flash briefings, so just share a little bit about kind of what your approach is and what you think is working right now.
So I've kind of taken the format when I worked in radio, particularly when I was doing sportscasting. At sports radio stations, there's usually something that they actually call a flash or an update or whatever, and it's 2 or 3 times during a show they'll go to an update anchor who'll do a 1 to 3 minute update with the latest headlines and scores and things like that. So I kind of took that format, and usually there's a music bed running under it, and I kind of took that kind of format, and that's what I've been using for my Alexa Flash Briefing. It's a couple of headlines related to live streaming, and then a rundown of the shows, some of the shows that I want to highlight that are going on that day that people might be interested in watching. And then oftentimes I will take a clip from a guest or a clip from a show, which makes it a sort of a longer process to put together, so I don't always do it. But when I do it, I like to get some sound in. So if I had you guys on my show, I might pull a clip of you talking about something related to real estate and live streaming and do a little story around that, and that might be like the lead story, and then I'd go into a rundown of shows or whatever. But I try and keep it between 1 to 3 minutes. So the idea behind it, for people who aren't familiar with the Flash Briefing, it's one of many skills you can make for an Amazon smart speaker device, Alexa. I won't set off everybody's device again and again and again. But it's one of these, it's a short news briefing kind of thing where people can enable it through their Amazon account, either through a phone or on the website, and they can pick and order which ones they want to hear. So you can get your stock report in the morning, you can get your weather, your local news, sports, whatever it is you're interested, tech. I mean, there's different ones for every interest, although there's a lot of room to create them. I mean, it's a place where you might want to think about, particularly if you're in the real estate business. I mean, if you have somebody who's interested in, say, moving to your area and buying a home in that area, boy, I bet they would be interested in signing up for a flash briefing in which every morning you give the listings that are available, or, whatever it is. I don't know, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on the industry, but I see use for it, and I think most businesses could find a way. A restaurant could give the daily specials or whatever, and if it's your favorite restaurant and you like something that they do as a special, you might subscribe to that. You might not, right? Mm-hmm. But you got to kind of try it and play around with it. And I'm not going to promise anybody that they're going to get a really big audience for this at this point. It's super early adopter territory right now. But I think there's a value in developing the skill set. I think there's a value in having it for people who are interested. And it's a way to talk to people in their homes, maybe the first thing that they listen to when they get up in the morning, or in their offices. And I do see it probably skewing towards people with disposable income to spend on products, and eventually I'm sure you'll be able to voice order a product right through a call to action or something in a flash briefing. I mean, at this point, you don't want to make them too promotional. They want to be more informational. It shouldn't be like buy but how can it not integrate with Amazon and other ways to purchase eventually? And that's going to be a part of it. So I would say, it's something to think about if you can find the time, and who can find the time in our schedules these days. But if you can, it's worth sort of trying it and developing the skill set. And, I do 2 RSS feeds, which is basically, what the hell is an RSS feed, you're saying, right? It's basically just a way of distributing audio content from a host that hosts your audio file, the actual sound that goes out through the flash briefing. It's the same concept that's used for podcasting. So I create one feed for Alexa, and I create another feed that I distribute as a podcast. So if somebody's interested in getting headlines and recommended viewing and things like that, they can get that as a podcast if they don't have the device, and they can get it on any of the major podcasting apps.
So let's say someone wanted to do a briefing, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would be an optimal amount of time per recording? 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes? I mean, where's that threshold?
As short as you can make it to get across what you need to get across. I think.
So it's like the old original
I mean,
videos.
I would say a minute is great. A minute to 2 minutes. If you have a reason to go longer, like for instance, you have an audio clip from a show and I try and keep them to. I ask people if I ask somebody to send me a clip commenting on something, I'll be like, 10 to 25 seconds. And sometimes I'll include 2 short clips or I'll put them together or whatever. But in general, I try and keep that sound as brief as I can to still enable the person to get across whatever insight they're providing or whatever the thing that the takeaway from that clip. But I try and keep it all short. But I'll put a couple clips in. I think that I feel like that adds people's tolerance to a little bit longer one, right? Because there's an exchange of voices. There's sort of movement in the sound. I don't really know how to describe that in words, but you hear different voices, and it sort of propels it to where, okay, you don't feel like, okay, this guy's just droning on and on and on, right?
Yeah, right. It definitely helps. Like multiple voices. I mean, even if it's not an actual conversation, it still kind of mimics that thing in the brain where you feel like there's some movement and some more dynamics, I guess, with more than one voice. Yeah, it does add some complication. So if somebody's looking to like get started, and what I'm thinking in terms of if I would get started on something like this is I would take the content that I'm doing normally, and I would figure out, okay, what's the most surprising thing out of that? If I can talk about something for 20 minutes, what's the most surprising thing I can possibly say in those 20 minutes? And then just pull that out and say that thing in 1 to 2 minutes, send that over. It's just me talking, super light editing, little to no editing or whatever, and then drop that into a podcast feed. I could send it to iTunes as a separate thing, and then turn it into an Alexa skill, right? And then they could get 1 to 2 minutes of my voice every morning, admonishing them to time block, Gene, time block.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you're saying because that's another way to do it, which isn't to sort of produce a formal report, but just to grab a sound clip talking about something that catches people's attention. And then at the end, you could also add in a tag where you say, for more, to hear the full interview or to read the full blog post, whatever, go to .com or whatever, right? Yeah. So you can, I mean, I always say for the full interview, find it at. So that's one way to do it. I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk does his where they just pull audio of him saying something outrageous or, passionately speaking about something, or when he's talking to somebody famous or something. They don't set up the clip. They don't, they just pull that audio and that's it. He doesn't record like, here I am talking to this, they just go with it. And that's another way to do it. And that's not how I do it. But I think that's a very valid way to do it, and I think it's pretty attention-grabbing. It all depends on what your audience is looking for out of it.
I'm trying to wrap my brain around this. What could real estate agents do, I mean, to get the attention of the people that are going to be listening? And my mind goes to the exact opposite of talking about real estate.
That's exactly where my mind goes.
And I'm like, do not talk about what's going on in the real estate market. That shit is fucking boring, right? What are people always looking for? They're looking to do fun things or be a beacon of knowledge. So for me, here in the Bay Area, we have a thing called SF Fun and Cheap. And every day I could go on, record a snippet of take 4 or 5 things that are happening that day that are fun or cheap and broadcast them out there to people so that they can get just up to the minute information of what to do, and then just brand myself. Hey guys, if you have any questions about real estate or anything in the Bay Area, go ahead and get a hold of me at blah 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 yakety-schmack.com. And
I like that, yakety-schmack.com.
Blah 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 yakety-schmack.com. Yes, it is a very eloquent speech. But I mean, I would encourage maybe, and of course, Ross, you are the master of all things, when it comes to audio. Is that something that you've seen kind of do the 180 of what people are expecting? I mean, you're a real estate agent or your mortgage. You got to talk about real estate or loans. No, boring, bad. Don't do that. Talk about something that's going to be, influential for the actual consumers' lives. Because if you're valuable to them, you become valuable in turn.
Absolutely, and I mean, it's sort of like, how do you align the content to your business, but still provide what's an interesting piece of entertainment or an interesting show, right? And so what you can do, for instance, is you can be the guide to all things in the community where you're selling houses, right? And all you have to mention at the end, this flash briefing was brought to you by so-and-so realtors looking for a house here. Check us out or whatever. Or you don't even have to say that much. You can just say, I'm blah, blah, blah with, was it X-Schmack, whatever.
Yeah, Schmack
Realty. Yeah, right.
Yeah, Schmack Realty, and here's the top 5 things going on in Northern California today or whatever.
Right.
And just do it. And your name and your company will get ingrained without even a call to action, so that if you build an audience, eventually when those folks need to buy a home or sell a home, who's the first person that comes to mind? But this person that they feel a connection to,
right,
that's been providing them all this value over time, and that they feel like they know. And then live streaming really takes it to the next level, because people can be actually communicating with you either, through a live chat. They're communicating and they're contributing their questions and their thoughts about whatever the topic that you're talking about that's interesting to them, right? It might not have anything to do with exactly what your business is, but there's still an alignment in the business, because you're focusing it to an audience that's local, which is an audience that would then be interested in selling or buying a house in that community, or would be looking for content about that community if they're thinking of moving from somewhere else into that community or planning to visit it. So there still has to be a tie-in, but it doesn't have to be a strong tie-in, and it doesn't have to be talking about how, the industry works or the business works or things like that.
Yeah,
So
interesting.
I think that's an amazing idea. I think that's like every real estate agency or whatever should have somebody doing that. That kind of thing.
They'll get on that in about 15 years when the Amazon Alexa has been dead for 10. All right. So let's
Gene, they'll be getting into radio advertising.
They'll be getting into radio. All right, Gene, I know you got to run. You've got some crib midgets to pick up from some place where they're supposedly being educated or something like that. I don't know, kids going to school. So Gene, let people know what is the place. What's your yakketyschmack.com? Where do people go to connect with you?
Are you done writing my jingle?
No, I have not created your jingle. If I created your jingle, it would end up sounding like Alice in Chains meets Bon Iver or something like that. I don't know that it would be productive for your business.
I totally disagree with that, because I would explain to everybody how it came about while they're watching footage of the bald ninja. Watch out! Oh wow! Watch out! Right? So, while the music was playing. So, GeneVolpe.com is where you're going to come see me. Listen, this stuff is great, dude. I got to bail, but I'm going to be listening to this stuff, because this is like right up my alley. Here's the one thing I want to know, Ross, before I jump out of here. And actually, I'm going to ask you the question and bail. So, peace out, y'all.
Great chatting with you.
You too. Thank you. Here's a question I have. We're talking about it from our end as the ones delivering content. Help me understand, if I'm a novice Alexa user, how do I sign up for Ross's flash briefings? I'd love to hear that, and then I'd love to do it.
Oh, that's a great setup. So what you do is you go to Amazon and you enable the flash briefing. I actually have a URL that sends you right to mine, which is a kind of a good way to do it rather than make them do a search on Amazon. Go to livestreamuniverse.com/Alexa. livestreamuniverse.com/Alexa. And if you have the device, you click enable the flash briefing. It's basically one click, and then it goes into your flash briefings, and you can go into your mobile app, or I believe you might be able to use the desktop app. I haven't done in a while. And you can order them or whatever. You can decide which ones you want to turn on temporarily, which ones you want to turn off or unsubscribe from, disenable. I don't know what the word exactly is, but yeah. So it's actually, from the listener point of view, it's actually pretty simple. You just have to know. You either do a search for and you can do a search for different flash briefings on the Amazon website. But the easiest is if the user has a link or a URL redirect or something that sends you there. And mine's livestream.com.
It's the same as podcasting, basically.
Yeah.
So you either search for the name of the show, or the show provides you a shortcut link that takes you to their show page where you can subscribe, essentially.
Right.
Alexa's version of subscribing would be enabling or something like that. Well, thank you Amazon for introducing new words into our lexicon. We appreciate that.
And a skill is an app, and creator is a developer, and
yes. Can we all get on the same? Really, Amazon and Apple, can we get on the same page here, for crying out loud? All right. Let's talk about monetizing our live streams, because that is the theme of today's show. We're about 40 minutes in, so let's take 5 to 7 minutes or so and talk about just ways that, especially local business owners, service professionals, people that are providing a service, especially a high ticket service, where there's really we're not selling low dollar products, right? We're selling services that are hundreds of thousands of dollars, things like that. So what is the best way for those of us that are doing that to turn our live stream into cash? What would your suggestions be?
So I would say I have this idea that there's 3 paths, basically, and they're not mutually exclusive. So we're going to leave out things, because there's more than 3 paths, but we're going to leave out things like getting your show sponsored or having it picked up by a larger network or something like that. We're talking about what you can do with your live streams to ultimately make sales, right? That's what we're talking about, to generate revenue. So the 3 paths are: one is direct selling. The second is basically time and rapport, providing value. It kind of goes along with Greg's example of providing the most interesting things to do in an area. Say you're live streaming about that, or you're live streaming about local news, local issues, something that is of interest to a wider audience that might not be looking for a house at that moment, or might feel they need more time to get to know the person that they would go into business. So when I talk about selling, there is, here's the product, here's the features and benefits, right? You take your camera and you go into the home and you show off the home, or you talk about listings that you have or whatever. And it's sort of QVC style, right? And that's one way. It doesn't have to be that style, but it could be live streaming an open house. It could be, it's focused on, I have products, I have houses to sell, I want your business, I want you to sell your house through us, whatever. It's a call to action. It's all a call to action, basically. And that's the focus. So that's sort of path number 1. Path number 2 is, again, providing value. It could be something that's just really not that closely related to what your business is, but just has that tangential connection where it's about the area, whatever. The other thing is, you could just be giving general advice for people. Say you're doing a show on general advice for people who first-time home buyers. So you could do another show, advice for working with a real estate agent, what to look for, what's a good mortgage, and why you should whatever people might be searching for and interested in, and if they become interested in watching your content, whatever that content is, right, you start to build a relationship with them. You may even have some of them take their questions live or bring them in for a question. You read their questions from a live chat. You have guests on, any number of different ways. But basically, there's the live show and that live engagement and the relationship building. That's kind of the second path that I look at. So one path is direct selling, and I don't know how it is in the real estate industry, but in a lot of industries, people really aren't that comfortable selling, right?
No,
so
no,
a lot of people...
I think real estate agents might be a little too comfortable, because they seem to that seems to be the only thing they can do is to tell people.
They might need to walk path 2 a little more, whereas people in a lot of other industries, they see the value in the second path of providing value over the long term and building relationships, but sometimes it becomes a crutch to not have to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I had a very interesting conversation the other day with an agency owner, and he said he was getting HubSpot's content literally for years, like several years. He's like, they finally got me on the phone, and he's like, I thought they sold content. He's like, I had no idea they were software. Like, they finally got me on. He's like, all their content was just all this super helpful content about content marketing. He's like, that's what I thought they sold. I thought they were like selling me more content that I could turn around and publish and white label as my own to attract clients. He's like, so initially I got on the phone and I told them I didn't need what they had to offer. But yeah, it is an interesting trap where if we spend all of our time talking about the bigger things and we never make a direct offer. If you're only content marketing, you don't make a direct offer, you end up actually confusing the audience. Like, the audience wants to know what you sell. They just don't want you to sell it to them all the time.
And then the third path is probably the least used and one of the most effective, particularly when you're not trying to sell more widgets than Walmart, when you have a big ticket item, when you have where one client or one sale really can impact your revenue in a great way for a month or a quarter or whatever. And that's what I call the portfolio method. And that's where selling live or the live show providing the value to the live audience through engagement and relationship building, neither of those are the focus. The main focus is live streaming is a great way to make content, right? There's less editing needed. There's less, okay, I'm going to script this, so I better redo that, right? It's a great way to show, even for people watching on the replay, that you have a grasp of your material, and there's a different feel to watching something that was recorded live compared to watching something that was clearly produced. And so people give you a little more credibility. They give you a little more leeway with what you say. There tends to be a little more laughter and fun involved in the unexpected. And so people like live even when it's not live. And there's a certain credibility they give to it. That is by no means to say that recording something live is the right thing to do for every occasion. But when you're trying to leverage the value of live streaming, there's value in the replay. And so when I talk about the portfolio method, I'm talking about creating a blog post and embedding the video on your website, making it easy for people to find videos on your website, having a YouTube channel, not because you care about driving views or, monetizing the channel or anything like that or getting 1 million subscribers, but when somebody finds out about you or your company and they get, because so much comes through referral when you're talking about big ticket items often. Who did you use when you sold your house? Who did you, and so what is the first thing we do? We Google that person. So if you have a YouTube channel and you have a website that features your videos, that may be where the person goes and says, let me watch Greg, let me watch Matt. Like, here's a chance to sort of, what do they like? Okay, they're knowledgeable, they're funny. I could see myself working with this person. It's basically how you get comfortable in today's world, right? You can look at a brochure, you can read a resume or whatever, but seeing somebody actually talking and communicating live in real time, talking about their business, are they knowledgeable? Are they passionate? Are they easy? Do they seem like they'd be easy to deal with? Do they seem like they'd be a pain in the neck? How do they handle questions, or how do they handle interaction in an interview? All these things are cues that people take from a video, and sometimes they don't even watch the video, but just the fact that you have the channel and the other 5 people you're competing against don't. It already speaks to the fact that you look more like you're an expert in the industry, and maybe they watch 10 seconds of one video. And I think it's such a powerful thing to think about. But ideally, there's all parts. There's parts of all 3, right? So you're doing a live stream. You've got a call to action. You're asking for a sale, or you're letting people know what's available. You're building a relationship with your audience through some type of live engagement. and you're repurposing that content in a way that it can easily be found. So you're not only taking clips and putting them into a tweet or putting them in on Instagram or in an Instagram story, which are all great but have a relatively short shelf life.
Yeah.
But you're also developing a Facebook page where people can find your old videos. You have a website where people can find your videos, and you have a YouTube channel and other ways of, distributing that content. Perhaps you're taking a podcast. You're making a podcast out of some of your content, and that's another way. So, and by having all that there, you're found. It's just so easy to find you and then know who you are and what you're about. So I think if you have those three things, you really have the three ways to generate revenue. And I think everybody sort of favors one path over the other, but ideally there should be a mix. So for some people might want to sort of sell or talk about their listings or the homes for 20%, and use 80% to answer viewer questions about the industry. Somebody else might spend 80% of the time talking about the industry and just do a quick run-through of a couple of their top listings or something like that. There's no right or wrong way, but both elements should be involved. There should be, something where you're providing a little more long-term value, because that's how you draw in the people who aren't right on top of it and need to buy it this second. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you want to let the people know who are watching your show because they need to buy a home because they're moving for a job that starts in 2 months or something like that, and they don't have time to waste. You want them to know that there are houses available in that market. And then no matter what you do, you want to put some value into your archive and how you repurpose it. And that's why I call it a portfolio, because it's not necessarily about building a funnel and then somebody eventually finds your video and then from there they go and they buy some content. It's not about doing that type of internet marketing. It's about, okay, I hear Matt and Greg are awesome. I'm going to check them out.
Right.
And where do I go that I look at something that makes me feel more confident about working with somebody who's been referred?
So it's you got to do a little bit of everything. Play around with it as you guys build into this. Wait until you find your feet underneath you. When Matt and I started the podcast, our format sucked for a good 6 to 8 months. I mean, wow. And then all of a sudden one day we both looked at each other after a show. We're like, holy shit, we found our format, and that is what we ran with and what we guys see today. So just get out there and try. But we're running up against a deadline here quicker than a freight train hitting towards a building. So I just looked down. I'm like, holy shit, it's been an hour? What the heck, man?
Well, we mentioned it before, but I want to remind people. So livestreamuniverse.com, right?
Yeah, so people can go to livestreamuniverse.com. They can join the mailing list to get tips for live streaming, and you can also reach out to me through the contact page if you need help with live streaming or figuring out how to create content, live content, audio content, video content, in order to market, promote, and sell for your business.
Paul Franklin, reach out to Ross. He just gave you a way to do that, and you can get your question answered. Paul's asking about a second device, about sharing content out to both his business and personal pages. So I'll let you guys discuss that. That would have been a great conversation to have earlier, Paul, if you'd shown up earlier and asked us the question. God, slacker.
That's right. We're live at the same time every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Paul. You know when to show up. All right. Greg, how do people reach out and connect with you, and why would they want to do such a crazy thing?
Oh, man, I'm a lovable teddy bear. I want you guys to go to bookmcdaniel.com. Look, EXP is growing with leaps and bounds. And there are good things being said. There are bad things being said. But I talked to an individual yesterday that a lot of the agents that are talking about EXP are just saying, oh, we love it because of blah. They give a very 10,000-foot answer. If you guys need more clarity about EXP, if you've kind of been hearing about it, rustling around in your local marketplace, you're like, what is this thing? How do I make more money by doing the same thing I'm already doing? Well, just go to bookmcdaniel.com and book a 30-minute spot with me, and let's talk about EXP. We'll do an explanation for you, see if it's the right move for you, explain to what Matt and I are offering to you to help you enhance your business, to help you grow, to help you get more deals, help to learn like to learn from people like Ross, outside the podcast. And, we have what 20, 25 hours, 30 hours of recorded content or more that we give them in our vault of goodness. So go to bookmcdaniel.com and let's talk. That's how you get a hold of Matt. How are people going to rate and give us reviews on this show?
Oh, I know. It's a crazy thing, but it's very, very simple. Go head on over to iTunes, or you can open your Apple Podcast app. Just search for the show. Go leave us a 5-star rating. And if you enjoyed a particular guest episode, like Ross's episode in this case today, make sure to give them a public shout-out and tell us which episode you enjoyed, so we can thank them publicly for their time and their contributions. So make sure to do that. But yeah, that's the way to get it. You can always go to REUncensored.com. You can get all the links out to the various places where you can follow the show, including our YouTube channel, or you can just follow us right on the website where all of our audio and video is embedded. That's kind of our portfolio, like Ross talked about. That's REUncensored.com. If you are, in fact, like that's kind of how people recommend us, and that's how we're ended up speaking in beautiful and scenic Traverse City, Michigan next week. So we're up at the Michigan Realtors Convention. So guys, if you're listening and you're in upstate Michigan, Minnesota kind of area, come out and hang out with us at the Michigan Realtors Expo next week. I think that's the 26th, something like that. And if you are looking for speakers for your event, Greg is available. He will get on a plane anytime, night or day, to be at your event. Doesn't matter. Nobody has to show up. 5, 10 people in a room, breakfast at Denny's, whatever. Greg is there. He is on a plane. Go to REUncensored.com. You can shoot us the details for any speaking engagement you would like Greg to show up for. I am volunteering him valiantly and enthusiastically to show up at your event.
And the funny thing is, 4 at Denny's.
Oh, man.
I'm working a table for 4 at Denny's.
It's only taken Matt 4 years to try to throw me under the bus when I've done it to him repeatedly. So
I finally found a way.
I know.
All right, guys.
And I actually would go travel. So if you guys really are interested in that, send me a text, 925-915-1978. That's my cell. Send me a text. I will travel. There is a cost involved, but I will travel. Matt won't, because he has a piece of coal for a heart, and he won't get on a plane and share his knowledge with you. But that's okay. There's a special place for him somewhere on Earth. Anyways, Matt, pick a color.
Oh my God. Well, just for that, I'm gonna have to go with charcoal gray. How about that? Charcoal gray for the color.
Oh, so fitting. The color of your heart and the color of the show. Anyways, Ross, you're a legend among men. Thank you, my friend. You dropped knowledge bombs. It hurt my head because you were given so much good content. So, like me, go back and rewatch the show, guys. There's a lot of good nuggets in here. Take it apart, slow it down, rewind it, write it down again. But make sure you implement something that Ross talked about, because obviously we brought him on for a reason. And you guys obviously heard the reason why a few minutes ago. Matt and I love you guys. That's why we do the show. We've been doing it for almost 4 years at this point, and we're going to continue to do the show. As much as we joke and banter, we really do like to come out and see you guys. I do. Matt doesn't. But you know what? We will continually do the podcast for you guys. So give us a like, a review, a 5-star review. No 4s, fuckers. Only 5s. And we'll continue to bring good guests on. So thank you guys again. I love you big time. And until next time, peace out, ninjas!